Hey guys, it's me, the Afro Samurai, and I'm talking about some hardware, but first I'm going to twist this so that I'm actually talking into it properly. There we go. Much tastier. Yeah. So the hardware we're talking about is portable recorders. I use them a lot for this channel, firstly, because I don't want to have to set up microphones all the time. A lot of the videos on YouTube talk about the portable recorders in the thought of using them for like field recording and location recording for video, and for getting like soundscapes around. So I've never really seen a lot of people review directly the inbuilt microphones for the purpose of sampling and seeing how good they are for that. So I thought I'd kind of do a rundown of 3 different portable recorders that I've tried, 2 of which I own. 1 I returned because it just didn't really work for me. But yeah, we'll just get straight into it. And we'll start with the first one that I got, the H4n Pro. Now I'm likely going to do some better videos of this, which you'll see over the top of me talking. But essentially the H4n Pro was my first one because I was originally looking for something to use for podcasting, and that could also work for video, surprisingly. And then after a while, when I kind of moved away from using it for audio for video, I started to use it a lot more as a music production device and also just to get audio wherever I needed to. But what I'm going to do is firstly just jump straight into the negative that the H4n Pro has. It can't deal with line level signals that well, just straight up. Like if you're trying to hook this up into a synthesizer like how I do, or use this with something like the TR6S or pretty much any hardware that outputs a line level signal, you're not going to be able to get a good recording from this. Okay, that's a bit harsh. You will, but it means a lot of juggling with volumes on the side of the kit that you're plugging into it, and also on this itself for its input levels. And you're only really able to use the combo inputs at the bottom to get like decent line level recordings. I've had to do a lot of balancing to try and get it to work, and even then sometimes I've found that I've gotten to the limit of what it can take in and I start getting compression or clipping. It's just really, it's a little bit annoying. So if you want to record line level stuff, maybe not the H4n Pro. But now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's actually talk about what the H4n Pro does that's good. And to be fair, it's actually quite a lot of it. The H4n Pro I quite like because it has very good built-in microphones that have 2 different pickup patterns. So you can either have it pick things up in the sort of like XY 90 degree mode, or you can move it to have like an XY 120 degree mode. And that 120 degree kind of gives you a bit of a wider field of listening. I very rarely use the 120 degree mode because I find that what I'll do is I'll just take the 90 degree and slightly make it wider, whereas taking the 120 degree and making it narrower sometimes doesn't sound as good. But you know, I've experimented with it and both of them work very well. They don't have a huge amount of noise, or at least not enough that sampling is an issue with them. I've been able to take this onto the London Underground and record some sounds with it and use those in tracks. I've been able to use this to record ambiences of like cafes and stuff like that and outdoor eating areas, and it's been absolutely fine. Whatever noise I do get is relatively easy to work with and filter out without even needing to put it into something like RX7 or RX8 or whatever version of RX Isotope make now. So you know, they're pretty cool, they're very usable. It takes 2 AA batteries. I use Eneloops, as I'm sure everyone knows from my recent video, hopefully. The battery life is very fair. It does have a stamina mode that will limit it to 44.1 at I think 16-bit, and then also turn off a few of the other features. So if you needed to record for a long amount of time and you were doing mainly music audio, then using the stamina mode might be a better option for you. So for sampling, the H4n Pro is actually a pretty decent microphone, and because it's versatile enough, even with the issues dealing with line level signals, if you needed something in a pinch to be able to do some sort of recording, you could definitely get it to work. Like genuinely with the dining table sessions, I didn't think I would be able to get the H4n Pro to do what I needed it to, but on at least 3 of the videos, it was absolutely fine with it. It was only on 1 where it really gave me a problem. So yeah, it's actually pretty alright. Biggest downside with the H4n Pro, other than the line level issue, is that it takes a huge amount of time to start up, and that is directly proportionate to the card size that you use. I've kind of decided to just go down to an 8 gig card to try and get the balance of capacity for when I'm recording at 96 kilohertz versus speed when I want to actually, you know, start the thing up. But there are a lot of times where if I have the H4n Pro off and I want to turn it on to record something, I've basically already lost that sound. It is also not necessarily the most portable. I mean, I would say it's definitely the average size of most portable recorders. Like if I take its thing off, there we go. So yeah, that's pretty average sized for a portable recorder. It's not necessarily big, but it won't fit into your pocket the same way that a phone would. But yeah, if you wanted to, you could put this into a backpack, take it around with you, and it would be all right. So, you know, swings and roundabouts maybe. Now let's talk about the main star of the show, the H1n. Yeah. So the reason I was actually getting this is because I was looking to get a smaller version of the H4n Pro, because I did want to go out and sample more, but the issue is that the H4n Pro is really big to take around, uses up a lot of space in my bag, especially if I'm taking lots and lots of different bits and pieces with me. And if I just wanted to go out for a walk and take something with me, it just for me felt a bit too conspicuous, and also, yeah, you know, can't put it into my pocket. So what sort of thing can I do? Let's talk about some downsides of the H1n first though, just to get it out of the way. It is nice and small, but it doesn't have the ability for you to switch patterns. Now that's kind of a bit of a cheap downside, because as much as, yeah, I can't switch between the 90 degree and the 120 degree, or like on the Tascam one, which I'm going to be doing a little talk about, where you can kind of change it to X, Y, or AB, it's not enough of a problem really. You still get perfectly wide recordings with this if you wanted to get an area, and because of its setup, if you bring it close to something, you get something that sums really well into mono for you to use as like a drum hit or something like that. Now in other reviews, a lot of people said that this was made out of plastic and that was a problem. I don't think it is. I mean, I haven't dropped it. I don't tend to make a point of dropping my technology when I need to use it. I just use it like normal, and it's been absolutely fine. I think it's hard-wearing enough for people to use, and being sub £100, I think it might be just around the $100 mark for most people. I mean, it's absolutely fine. I don't mind it being made out of plastic because everything else about it is pretty good. This also can't deal with hugely loud sounds. Now, I don't know what hugely loud sounds that would be, because I've genuinely taken this to, you know, trains going over like little points on the rails, and it's been absolutely fine. So I'm thinking that it's loud things like jet engines, Formula 1 race thingies, stuff like that. Maybe more where you are thinking about like on location sound for video and film, as opposed to something like sampling your more mundane stuff around the house or maybe stuff outside. So yet again, I don't necessarily think that most people who use these for sampling are going to run into a problem with it, but just be aware that this won't handle hugely loud sounds. But then also remember that it's about $100 or less, or £100 or less, and you'll be absolutely fine. There are a lot of things the H1n does that the H4n Pro doesn't do as quickly. The first is start up. I have a 16 gig, I think, or maybe a 32 gig, one of them. I have a bigger card in this, at least definitely bigger than the H4n Pro, and it loads up about as quickly as the H4n Pro does when you don't have an SD card in it. Like, so if you're looking for something for sampling when you're outside, when things aren't necessarily going to be straight up prepared for you, yeah, use the H1n. It's a much better idea. Also, a lot of things that are kind of maybe seen as utility situations are directly on buttons on this. So when you're not recording, you can really quickly change your sample rate and your quality between the 44.1 at I think 16-bit, all the way up to the 96K at 24 that this can actually do. And yeah, it's pretty nice like that. Genuinely, at the price point that it is and the size that it is, I can't really think of anything that this doesn't do, for real. Like, there have been times where absolutely I've taken the H4n Pro out with me still, but most of the time I'm able to use this perfectly fine. The H4n Pro has almost become just like my doorless mixer. Now for the last one, which I actually don't have because I bought it and then returned it, and that's the Tascam DR-07X. Now originally the reason I was looking at that is because I kind of thought, oh, you know what, it's basically like taking an H4n Pro but hopefully making it a little bit smaller, and it is smaller and it is slimmer, The problem is that it's not smaller enough. Now, I haven't got it with me yet again because I returned it, but memory basically said that its size on the front, like its surface area on the front, was basically the same as the H4n Pro. It was a little bit shorter and a little bit like slimmer in width, but most of its slimness came from its depth, so it was kind of like actually thinner than the H4n Pro, but that was about it. And that just basically meant that I still had the same problems. I couldn't really fit it into a pocket that well, unless I had, you know, bigger pockets like in a jacket or something like that. But then if I did, I just use the H4n. It also had lots of other things I really didn't like. The hold switch is the good bit because you can flip it to hold. The screen was actually a lot nicer than the H4n Pro, in my opinion. I think that the information they decided to put on the screen and the layout was a lot better than the H4n Pro. But those are, I think, the only two good things I can kind of say about it, outside of the fact that its microphones were actually very good. The biggest issues I had with the DR-07X was that, I mean, it wouldn't fit into pockets. That's the biggest thing, unless I basically just didn't take a phone with me, in which case, what's the point? Like, I need to be contacted if I'm outside. What if something happens to me? All of its buttons were really, really, like, you know, high up and weren't really anchored down or anything like that. With the H4n Pro and with the H1n, there is a little bit of like some loose switches, but if you were to rattle it around, like if I do it now, like, there's noise. I can hear some noise myself. I know some noise must have gone into that recording, but you don't really get a huge amount of button noise from moving it. Whereas with the 07X, literally all of the buttons are just like on this big shield that kind of floats around. If you move it, the microphones hear those buttons. That's fine if you're using external microphones, or if you're being really still, or if you've taped everything down, but otherwise it is pretty useless if you want to do like outdoor recording. It's actually not very fun. I kind of feel that that's a bit of a shame with it. Also, the record button, which you have to press twice, once to put it into like the record armed mode and then the second time to actually record, is a clicky button. In fact, I'm going to get the H4n Pro just to show you what the record button sounds like. Yeah, like, you can hear it, it's really small, but it's like a squishy button. Like, you know, it squishes in and out. There is a point where it clicks, but it's squishy, so it doesn't go into the microphones when you press the record button. Even on the H1n, it has a squishy recorder button. Like, I thought that was just a standard thing. Squishy recorder button, that's how it works. The end. Yeah. So I'm a bit biased because I just didn't like it. Those were enough features I didn't like. But yeah, if I wanted to use it for sampling outside sounds, I really couldn't use it, because if I wanted to get an ambience, I know I'd hit the record button, and even if I pre-recorded, there would likely be some shaking that happens before I press the record button. Then you get the click of the record button, and then it ruins the entire thing for you. So yeah, nah, I wouldn't recommend that one. So if you wanted to get a portable recorder for sampling, what would I say is the best? Well, genuinely, this, the H1n, for real. Yeah, genuinely, the H1n for me is perfect for sampling because it does everything that I kind of need it to. It starts up really quickly. It has good enough microphones that if I want to record something, I absolutely can. They're wide enough to be able to capture an area or an environment, and they're narrow enough when I bring it a little bit closer that I can actually get a single sound and isolate that a little bit more too. If you've gotten this far in the video, thank you very much for watching. If you want me to walk you through my channel, I can do. I kind of do like a variety channel with all sorts of music stuff, so music is kind of like the main thing, but then I'm trying to do like just other stuff because I just want to have fun on the channel. I've kind of started a new like thing of seasoned taste, where I talk about how I season my tracks, which is code for how I use plugins and like some ideas I have for them. I'm not trying to be an expert. This is not like a how to make your drums bang or anything like that. It's just, this is something I do that's really cool, and this is a plugin I used to do it, basically. Yeah. Do I have an upload schedule? No. I don't here. I do on my gaming channel where I do gaming with my other half, but I don't have an upload schedule here. I pretty much just upload when I kind of feel like it makes the most sense and there's a decent gap between stuff. But yeah, cool.